I watched my mother walk away from my dad after seeing my dad work himself to the absolute ground to provide for our family. So all I saw was betrayal and abandonment. This core story and belief that started to play out for me, it's a matter of time before the people that you love most leave you. The deepest wounds we experience is from the women in our life. I knew about attachment styles. I knew about patterns of behavior that play out in relationship, and I understood it all until the woman I loved more than anything left me. I was on the floor, curled up, shaking, throwing up, vomiting. It wasn't the 25-year-old Ryan. It was the little 6-year-old laying on the bedroom floor. I had to process the grief of this little boy who felt that he needed to be something other than himself in order to be loved. In order to live a full life with an open heart, you must be also willing to grieve.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the New Age Sage podcast with my guest, Ryan. What I want to begin is I've been on the arduous journey and painful journey of really understanding what it takes to be a safe, healed man, considering, and I've only gotten good and aware of that stuff because I have all the mechanisms to be the complete opposite, a complete nightmare, complete terror. So I know what it takes to receive the wisdom you've gotten. So I want to begin with, beyond the actual textual investigations and the intellectual escapades and the research I'm sure you've done, and the field research, what in you, what about your experience in your life got you this wisdom? Like what about your experience got you here?
Yeah, man. Before I go into story and where it came from, I think it's important to speak about, and I like to explain it in the sense of there's three kinds of trauma that we experience. There's the big T trauma, which is like a big, very obvious event that happens where it's too much, too fast, too soon for our nervous system to handle. And we become frozen and trapped in that energy, right? Then there's small T trauma, which is this subtle trauma that happens over a very slow period of time where you can't really quite put your finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the subtle emotional disconnection. It's the, uh, you know, this subtle emotional abuse that you might experience in a relationship or the disconnection. But then there's developmental trauma. And this is the real slow trauma that happens where it can be so subtle where your parents just don't have the emotional attunement to what you need in any given moment. And that over a long enough period of time creates this sense of isolation or disconnection within a child,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when a child doesn't have this parent who's so in tune with their own emotional experience, they aren't able to reflect back the fullness of this child's experience and provoke this child's sense of self, right? So this then leads me to where I come into this, and our family moved from South Africa to Australia. So I'm originally from South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I was about 2 or 3 years old when we moved over to Australia. It's a very dangerous place to grow up. So I'm very fortunate, very grateful that we were able to actually make that transition. But in that period of time, there's this thing called immigrant mentality, where when a family moves country, typically the father will do everything in his power to make it work for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in doing so, dad worked 7 days a week, right? Mum had to take care of everything. And as we moved here, this is where the family started to grow apart. Now, in the family system, the heart of the system is the relationship between mum and dad.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's a disconnection in the heart of the system, it affects the entire system, right? So over a period of time, this lack of emotional attunement that I received and didn't receive from mum and dad started to cause and create this developmental trauma. And developmental trauma is also it's a lack of, not only a lack of attunement, but a lack of core needs that we need to have met in certain stages as well, right? There's certain stages where, men are supposed to go through a rites of passage from initiation from boy to man. And basically, this lack of attunement that I experienced as a little boy, dad would be away working. And as a child, as a little boy, I just craved his love and his attention and his presence, right? He was physically there, but emotionally he wasn't there,
Mhm.
right? Then mum having to take on the weight of, the family, and then my little sister was then born and then came into the family. So whatever love was left over was very minimal. So this and it's nothing massive, right? It's nothing massive, but it was just this subtle lack of attunement to what I needed as a little boy to have reflected back to me, to know that I am loved and that I'm welcomed. And, it could be as subtle as needing to be soothed in a certain way or held, right? But when my parents had their stuff going on, they were emotionally overwhelmed because they were just trying to make it work in this new country. They didn't have the ability to hold me or soothe me in the way that I needed because they weren't even attuned to that.
Mhm.
So as a child, you start to disconnect from yourself. And this is where we eventually we get to a period of time where as we get to a fork in the road where it's more important for me to neglect my emotional experience and disconnect from myself and be and become whoever I need to be in order to fit in order to keep mum and dad happy,
Mhm.
to make sure that they're okay.
Mhm.
Because when our family system, at the heart of the system, mum and dad aren't okay emotionally, or they don't have the emotional capacity to tend to your needs, we need them to be okay so we can get our needs met. So when they're not okay, we start to become their emotional support system, right? So this little boy, I started to take on the weight and the responsibility of my dad's emotions, of my parents' emotions. And yeah, from the youngest age, I abandoned myself, my true self. And this is where, I've grown up and I really never actually knew who I was for a long time. And I was so disconnected from that because from the earliest age, this little boy disconnected from himself. He had to be something other than himself in order
Mhm.
to fit into the family system. So that's a lot of weight and responsibility for a little boy to carry.
Mhm.
Now, that was the beginning of it, right? And then eventually they grew further apart and they divorced. And that divorce, as a 6, 7-year-old boy for me, that absolutely crushed my world. And as a boy, I was in the middle between mum and dad and me wanting to be dad's emotional support system, where he didn't have the capacity to feel and process his grief. So I took on that that weight. I took on that responsibility to, take care of him in a way, right? So as a little boy, I started to take on his grief. I started to really take on the grief of the entire family system, to be fair, right?
Mhm.
Now, what happened in this period of time was as my parents divorced, I watched my mother walk away from my dad after seeing my dad work himself to the absolute ground to provide for our family.
Mhm.
So all I saw was betrayal and
Mhm.
abandonment.
Mhm.
And that's all I'd ever known
Mhm.
was emotional neglect, emotional abandonment. And then this core story and belief that started to play out for me. It's a matter of time before the people that you love most leave you.
Mhm.
And that was my story for most of my life,
Mhm.
right? And some of the deepest wounds we experience as men is from the feminine,
Mhm.
is from the women in our life.
Mhm.
And that's something that isn't really spoken about enough, is that the real wounding that a lot of men experience from the feminine. And so most of my life had been built on this foundation of betrayal and lack of trust for the feminine. And basically, with developmental trauma, we stay stuck at the original stages, the early stages of development. Basically, we stay stuck at the consciousness of a little boy
Mhm.
until we create the safety for that trauma to be grieved,
Mhm.
for that emotion to be felt and fully processed. So from there onwards, I went throughout my life and I became a high performing, high achieving 20, 25-year-old man from the place of this little boy seeking to prove himself in the world, seeking for dad's love, approval, and attention. But not only that, because I hadn't cultivated this sense of safety in my nervous system, this sense of nourishment in my own nervous system and the ability to self-soothe and regulate my nervous system, I needed women. I needed women to nourish me and make me feel good. And when I didn't have that, I then had to turn to habits that didn't serve me to nourish my nervous system when I'd be overwhelmed and stressed, because I didn't have the resources in my own nervous system to deal and manage with stress. So I'd get easily overwhelmed, right? So basically I was this little boy walking through walking through the world and seeking to have my needs met through women, using women. And yeah, a lot of this pain really showed up in relationships. And then, eventually got to the point where the woman I did love more than anything, right, left me, right? Because that was a story. It's a matter of time before the people you love more than anything that are closest to you leave you and abandon you. And yeah, man, that was the real initiation into this work of healing the boy and awakening the man.
So I feel this immense compassion and connection towards your inner child. Like most people I have in front of me when they speak this to me, it's just like a story.
Mm.
Oh, this happened to me as a kid and this happened. I'm one of those people. I kind of disconnect. I feel like it's the first time I've been in front of someone there's actually a connection.
Mm.
Like you haven't abandoned those feelings. There's no split in your psyche between the inner child and you, which is insanely impressive to witness and beautiful to see, genuinely. So I just want to kind of build on that. And one piece you said really stuck to me, so I'm going to kind of move this question twofold, is that why is that? It seems like that's important to you, to have that like deep compassion connection to that inner child in you. And the second part of the question is, how did you move from the consciousness of the inner child seeking safety to the man in front of me today? Like what happened there? And that's a tough journey. I'm still not 100% there, especially in my relationship. So yeah, I'd love to kind of have you unpack those things.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and thank you for recognizing that and acknowledging that. Like, we all have a little boy or a little girl within us that's present in any given moment.
Mhm.
And most people have neglected, suppressed, repressed those parts of them for their entire life. And there's that little boy, just for me, it was this lost little boy sitting in his bedroom by himself, like in here with the door shut. And metaphorically, it's like the door was closed to my heart and I couldn't truly let love in because this little boy was so afraid of love and what love meant, which was abandonment and betrayal, which was emotional neglect, which was him needing to have to prove himself and be something other than himself in order to be loved. And it wasn't until I actually metaphorically and emotionally opened that door and created that safety for the door to open and for me to go in there and reconnect with that younger part of me. The little
What does
boy.
that mean? How did you open the door?
Yeah, great question.
And what do you do when you feel him come back?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's three levels of learning, and there's knowing it and understanding it. They're the first two. That's where most people, right, stay. Now, then the third level is embodiment, and it's the actual felt sense. It's the actual going in and the experience of it, right? So I had been learning about this stuff for years. Like I knew about attachment styles. I knew about, patterns of behavior that play out in relationship and, addictions and emotional regulation. Like I understood. I knew about it and I understood it all. Until the woman I loved more than anything left me. And in that moment, I dropped, my nervous system dropped. I was on the floor, curled up, shaking and throwing up, vomiting, right? I was 25 years old or whatever. And I got home from the gym and her bags are packed and she left. And I was living in Bali in this villa by myself and she'd just gone, like this woman that I just devoted my entire life to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my nervous system just collapsed, and I found myself on the floor, like convulsing, vomiting, shaking, and just in this ball of mess. And it wasn't the 25-year-old Ryan. It was the little 6-year-old laying on the bedroom floor, so afraid, so alone, so scared, because mum and dad have just separated and our family's disconnected. And now mum's seeing someone else, and it's so foreign, and it was just so scary and so alone. And I was just literally, it brought me back to the exact experience of when the people I'd loved most had just left, and I've just felt so alone, so empty. Now, that lonely little boy was actually the one who had got me into that relationship,
Mhm.
because it was more important for him to get his survival needs met than be on his own, right? So me experiencing that and realizing, right, like this younger part of me, this little boy who's laying on the floor because mum and dad just separated, he's still a part of me, and he's still there, and he's the one who's been in this relationship. And I couldn't actually tell the difference between me in that moment when my partner left me and the little 6-year-old boy laying on the floor when mum and dad separated. I couldn't tell the difference. And in that moment, I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. You can know about it, you can understand it, but there's the actual emotional experience of you feeling the grief of that experience, right? So what it took for me to go back was to reconnect with that little boy laying on the floor and create the space for him to actually just feel and grieve.
How do you create space for the inner child to feel and grieve? Because I'm gonna relate back my experience. I know this the spotlight's on you, but I'm just trying to create a point of where I've been on this is that like I'm aware, deeply aware of my inner boy. I'm aware when the grief comes up.
Mhm.
I'm not unconsciously leaking for the first time ever. I'm deeply aware of when it's. I know the feeling in my body when it's
Mm.
that little kid, but it's like I see it, but I'm like the ego of my man is like this isn't me. Like how the fuck can this be happening? How the fuck can this, sorry to sound egoistic, this 26-year-old hotshot be like panicked over a woman, my partner, needing space for 2 hours to figure out something. It's like how the fuck is this man with that all his history with all these beautiful women and models and everything? How is this man, this strong man, panicking and grieving over this shit? I understand the inner child is still here, but how am I still not over this?
Mm.
So there's this immediate like shame and like frustration of like how the fuck is it still here? Like I've been doing this for so long, how is it still here?
Yeah.
And it's like the trigger comes up, I acknowledge it, but I don't want like there's a part of me that's so disconnected from the inner child. I don't want to like experience it in a way. So I'm saying that as a way to like kind of relate back to you is that how did you get over that process? Like of that like distance of like this can't be me. How the fuck am I feeling so needy and like needing reassurance
Yeah.
as this man I am now? I don't thankfully leak nearly as much anymore, but there's still this like shame. Like how the fuck is it still happening?
Mm.
And in that shame is like a complete. I do my best to feel it, but there's like a block.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is great, because this is the exact question I'd be asking if I hadn't done this work or gone there. Be like, yeah, so I love this. There's this thing called implicit memory, which is our body's emotional memory. It doesn't know the difference between that 6-year-old that I just explained in that experience that I had and me right now in this moment. It doesn't know the difference, the emotional memory.
Mhm.
So when you experience a situation or an event that triggers that implicit memory, your body doesn't know the difference. For example, as soon as you get into relationship with someone, that in itself is the trigger for the emotional memory and the blueprint of everything you've experienced when it comes to relationship that you haven't dealt with. So when we understand that, it's understanding that we're in a relationship with this younger part of us always. And that younger part of us, the emotional memory and experience that we've had in our earliest relationships, we carry that into our current relationships.
Mhm.
So I like to say, like, if you're in a relationship with someone, you're also in a relationship with their little boy or little girl.
Mhm.
So you must be also willing to hold them and be aware of those younger parts of them too. Now, to expand on this a little bit more, the way I like to explain it is if you cut a tree in half, you can tell how old the tree is by how many rings there are. So when you count the rings, you can tell how old it is, right? So it might look like a grown tree. It might look like a grown man. But those first original rings are still part of the tree. There's no separation. And until we actually grieve, and we'll get into what the grieving would actually look like and to go in and really connect in with that, until we grieve the original pain of the wounded inner child, of those original stages of development and our first initial experiences of relationship, until we go in and grieve that and build a relationship with our grief and understand that those parts of us are also coming into relationship, until we do that, we'll continue to be triggered, reactive, shut down, and have this small emotional capacity in relationship to deal with the emotional nuances that come up. So the journey of healing the wounded inner child and these younger parts of us is us cultivating a relationship with grief. And that means that it's a relationship. It's not a journey. A journey means that there's an end, that it comes to an end. A lot of people are doing the healing work because they're trying to get rid of parts of them. They're trying to do the work so there's an end.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, I try to go on gunshot, thunderbag, straight to self-realization. You know what that is? You know what self-realization is? It's like where the ego vanishes and there's just consciousness.
Yeah, got you.
So so my journey's been like, I've gotten there. Let me explain. I've had weeks, it sounds insane, days where there's no thought. There's just pure consciousness. I've jammed this for a long time. But then I was like a week straight of like, I call it God mode with my wife. That was just like amazing. And then I pulled the dumbest shit ever out of nowhere. I got jealous and like snapped. And then I was like, who the was that? And I realized that I fully just, there was, like you're saying, there was this abandonment of the inner child. I severed that connection in favor of becoming pure consciousness. And I realized that like, I can't escape my humanity.
Yeah.
In this dimension, at least, maybe in the next game, but in this dimension,
yeah,
I can't fake that shit. So now it's like been this journey of like, how do I, do own that side of me who has that capacity to be consciousness, whatever that means, masculine Shiva energy, whatever, and also understand that there's an inner boy who doesn't give a about that, who's just a ball of grief and emotion. How have you managed that?
Yeah, man. Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks about the energy centers.
Yeah, of course.
And
I'm woo-woo, so to go into it, man.
Yeah.
Take whatever you need.
And he shares that majority of the population is stuck in the first 3 energy centers, right?
Yeah. I'm stuck in 3.
Yep.
Solar. Yeah.
Yep. So majority of the population is stuck in the first 3 energy centers. And the biggest red flag and the biggest issue with the spiritual community is bypassing the first 3 energy centers and going straight to the third eye.
Yeah, blasting off
into space.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And completely disconnecting from the human experience, which is these younger parts that are part of us.
Yeah.
And if we're disregarding and disconnected from those parts of us, you can float off into space, but when you come back into your body, like you're going to have a very challenging time.
It was that split. It was literally like days or a week of just like no thought, crazy, and then out of nowhere, it was like just skyrocketed back down to just miserable pain and self-sabotage. So yeah, that's been difficult. So I think there's definitely more things to unpack here, but one direction I wanted to go down a bit is like, what's been my experience is that what I have fresh in my body now is I'm with a deeply feminine queen. I hate that language, sounds super new agey and weird, but that's the way I feel. And it's based on uncompassionate or brutal, but she won't tolerate being the mother. She just won't. She won't. she does not like it when that part of me leaches out.
What does that look like?
Yeah, like for instance, what's really tough for me is, I realize that feminine requires spaciousness. I've learned that language is that they need space to flow. They need space to retreat back and recharge and come back to the heart. And the masculine really has to do a good job to not take that personally. I'm a PhD in taking it personally. So I know there's this we have a tough conversation and she needs space to withdraw. I like every part of me is equates that withdrawing with abandonment. Abandonment issues as a kid, dead mom, like that just comes back as my body is activated so much. I'm like, no, we have to solve this now. We have to do this now. And when I'm in that energy and that fear, it just comes back to me. It just does not ever work. When I go into myself, self-soothe, and give her space to come back, it always works well. So what I'm saying is, for a feminine woman to feel safe, is a lot of pressure on the man. Like, this is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
This shit's no joke. Like, they're so damn sensitive that you bring any inner child fear and project it to them. A real respecting woman, it ruins the polarity. She's not having it. Like, it's pretty drastic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of pressure on a man. And how do you grapple with that? Like, it's a reality. I'm like, it's true. I don't know if I'm being hard, but I feel it's true. Like, it's really important for men to really do this, because it's like any leakage on them to be the mother doesn't register well. So what can a man do with that pressure and understand that it's real? I don't know what your perspective is on it, but it's real. And what do they do with that reality? Once they realize, like, she's not having this. My patterns of needing to hurt your mother, my patterns of projecting fear will not work here. Once a man makes a realization, what does he do? How does he conceptualize it to be like, this is the way things are for men and women? There is more pressure on the man to be safe.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure on a man to be the safe man in a relationship. And I'm glad you brought this up, because the way I see it is, it's not actually a man's responsibility to create safety for a woman.
You don't think so?
No. But there's a big but there. If she isn't able to create safety in her own nervous system, she will be dependent on this man being perfect, this perfect, safe man for her to feel safe. As a man, you need to be able to cultivate safety in your own nervous system. As a woman also needs to be able to cultivate safety in her own nervous system. As soon as I share that with a man, I see the weight drop off his shoulders. It's not your responsibility to create safety in her. That is hers.
Yeah.
We're individuals.
Yeah, where's the line?
What's that?
What's the line?
What's the line?
Yeah, like, what? That's true. I get it.
Yeah.
But then it's not in your wisest cards to then just, like, bring all your bullshit and, like, vomit at her. Like, what's the, let's think, I hear you, I get it.
Yeah.
What's the line?
Yeah. It's a man's responsibility to be the safe space for her. And what that means is that he doesn't need anything from her. And what I mean by that is, when he's operating from the consciousness of the little boy, he needs her love and attention to fulfill his unresolved, unmet needs from childhood. So when he's good within himself, he's got his little boy, he can just be that safe space, because it's like, I don't need anything from you. I can just be the loving presence that you need, while also understanding that to be in relationship is to also rely and depend on a partner as well. So there's the healthy level of interdependence, where it's your ability to be in your own energy, to create safety in your own nervous system, and to also rely and depend on someone emotionally at the same time. It's this interdependence, right? But as the man, as you meet these deeper parts of yourself and reclaim these younger parts of you that come out in relationship, you just get to be this safe space for her. It's like, I don't need anything from you. I get to choose you fully. And I am not going to play into the dynamic of your wounded girl. I'll hold the space for her, right? And I'll also challenge at the same time, and be the safe space for you to heal whatever comes up for you. But if a man is afraid of abandonment and afraid of her leaving, he's not going to speak his truth. He's not going to hold his frame. He's not going to be in his own energy, because he'll be afraid that if I say something the wrong way and she doesn't like it, she's going to pull away and she's going to leave me.
Yeah.
So a man's also going to be solid in his own frame and understand that I am the safe space for you in partnership. And also what I bring to you, there's a responsibility that you have to take as well yourself. And a lot of women, and this is something I really want to start speaking into around a lot of women are hiding behind this need to feel safe by the masculine, but it's actually this cover up for them not facing and actually holding their own inner girl. And this is where men need men, right? They got their bros to bring their stuff to, and women need their women, right? So to be held in circle as well. So women also have younger parts of them. They also have a wounded little girl within them, and that little girl will come out. And she has to be aware of that and be able to hold that younger part of her. And that's not the responsibility of her man. But this man gets to be the safe space to heal these younger parts of her that she's probably been craving her entire life. He gets to be the safe space for those parts to come out and to be met with loving presence, not him needing to have his needs fulfilled through her.
How does the man hold frame and be a safe space at the same time?
When he doesn't need anything from her.
That's what I've noticed. I just did a podcast on this, a solo episode, is that if I'm contaminated, that's a strong word, but I feel that way, by the energy of the little boy. And in my body, it's like, I need you to change something so I can feel safe. It's that exact feeling is I need you to do X and I'll feel safe. The minute I'm in that consciousness, that energy, I say whatever. I can say the nicest thing. She feels it. And immediately, like, it's been my experience with every single woman, and I think it's a common experience. The minute I'm full, I'm present, I'm grounded, I'm in my heart, I say the same exact words, it's received entirely differently. Like totally differently. Same words, different energy. So that's why I asked that question, because I think it's frustrating for men to be like, you know, I think the common thing is that, like, I'm saying these things to a woman and she's not taking accountability and she's not doing this, but it's like a lot of it's the energy you bring. So what I'm mostly asking for myself is that how the fuck do you hold frame as a man and still be a safe space? You know, if you have to disappoint her, if you have to say I can't do this, I'm at capacity. How does a man do that without having her go into survival mode?
Yeah, a man's got to be okay with or without a relationship.
Yeah,
and until he's not, like he won't. He'll be so controlled by the fear of being on his own. He'll be so controlled by that it'll keep him in relationships and being and becoming whoever he needs to be. That's the nice guy. The nice guy is so afraid of the loneliness that is deep down within and the emptiness that he feels and the fear of being alone that he needs to please and become and be whoever he needs to be in relationship. And this is where it's when a man isn't okay on his own and he isn't able to just choose this woman fully because he needs her. If he needs her, it's because he's needing her to fulfill something within him. Therefore, he's not actually fully choosing her. So, for example, when
unpack that.
If a man needs, it's just speaking into what we're speaking about. If he needs a woman to fulfill something within him, he isn't able to just choose her from a place of truth. Yeah, because it's more important for him to be in that relationship than be on his own. Therefore, when she's not okay, he won't be okay within himself. Because if she's not okay emotionally, the little boy comes out within him and fears that if she's not okay, this means that she's not going to be able to meet my needs, fulfill my needs, or she could pull away and run away from me.
It's exactly my experience.
Yeah, totally. So then the little boy comes out. Now that's the opportunity for him to hold that younger part of him and to meet the deeper part of him. And there's a lot of grief in that. And it takes a lot of courage, and typically it takes for it to be painful enough for a lot of men to go there, unfortunately. But from what I've found, until a man is in that place within himself where I don't need you, but I can fully choose you, he
Yeah.
will struggle to be the safe space for her,
Yeah.
to just hold a safe
Yeah.
frame.
That's what my teacher and guru would tell me. That was so counterintuitive. He was like, you can't be a safe space ever if you're afraid of losing her.
Mm.
I was like, how does that make any sense? Like, if you're in love, then mine goes into like, if you're in love, then you should be afraid of losing someone, right? That's like the inversion of this matrix. But it's like, whenever I'm in the energy of I fear losing you, I fear abandonment,
Mm-hmm.
I become a non-safe space. So that's led me to the observation that a man kind of has to love her, choose her, but not be terrified of her walking away.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that necessary for a man to step into his power and wear his crown?
Mm-hmm. It comes back to you needing her to fulfill something within you for you to feel whole and complete within yourself, right? So if you were to speak your truth, right, and this is why the nice guy won't speak his truth, because typically as a little boy, when he either spoke his truth or he voiced his truth, or not even just that, like his full expression was either too much and love was just slightly pulled away, right? If he spoke his truth, it wasn't received. And it can be as subtle as that, right? Those younger parts of us, then we carry that into a relationship. And I believe that if I speak my truth, love is pulled away. Now, if love is pulled away when you speak your truth, that's not like this is where the whole responsibility piece comes in. It's if you speak your truth in relationship and they pull away, that like that's their responsibility to receive and to deal with the truth that you've spoken, if it's come from the right place.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important that we
What is the right place? That's what I think the core distinction here is
yeah.
that if you're a man and you want to say the truth, what's the right way to deliver it?
Hmm. You have to hold the younger part of you first before you speak your truth. So this is where I teach this framework called me, you, we. First and foremost, when you experience a trigger in a relationship or there's emotional disconnection in the relationship, you have to be with that fully first, right? And a lot of men don't know how to be with it fully first. And their partner is their emotional support system. So they lean on their partner emotionally to unpack the trigger, to unpack the wound, right? Or to continue to perpetuate the disconnection by bringing their wound to their partner, right? You need to be with that fully. And what that looks like is connecting in and holding the younger parts of you, like the little boy, and understanding from what place is this coming from within me? That's the key question. From what place is this coming from within me?
Yeah. So I'm aware
Yep.
of that. But then the feeling's so intense, it doesn't go away.
Mm.
So it's like, that's where I get in a conundrum. Where it's like, I want to deliver this, but this feeling is still so dominant that I know I don't want to speak from this place.
Yep.
You know? That's where the line becomes hard. But there are moments where I'm fully grounded and meditate for a while, but it's like I'm on a long walk in nature, but it's like a whole process. Then I'm like good. So ideally I like that process to be shorter, but is it just that like so state change, what exactly has to shift in that dynamic with your inner child for you to be in a safe space now? Like what's the somatic shift? And that's the piece people don't understand. Like, what, like you go from what to what?
Mm-hmm.
Like what criteria is it? Like you go from here to here,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're in that new state, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
Like what is that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that framework I was speaking about, the me, you, we, right? So it's first and foremost coming back to me before it's you, before I can bring it to you, before I can share the awareness with you. And once you create this state shift that we'll speak about in a moment, you're now able to bring the awareness to your partner, not the wound. And when you can bring the awareness to your partner, not the wound, you're no longer, like bringing this wound to her for her to solve.
What does
It's
that mean?
like
Bringing the awareness, not the wound.
the awareness of, for example, hey, like I noticed that when you said this, I noticed that when I brought this to you, there was a part of you that pulled away and shut down, and I noticed that there was a younger part, like the boy within me, right, was afraid that you were gonna leave, and I noticed that I wanted to react and I wanted to shut down. I wanted to pull away. Right. So in that moment, instead of him actually shutting down and pulling away, it's going, hey, like I just need to be with this for a moment. Right. So the me is going and actually sitting with that and being with that. For what's this trigger coming? What's it provoking within me? And I look at it as like a trailhead. So you're following the trail of the trigger, and at the end of the trail, there will be a little boy. There will be a younger part of you that's rearing its head. Now, he's now able to bring her the awareness and communicate from a more healthy and effective place, right? Instead of actually just pulling away, shutting down, and not knowing why he's getting reactive or shutting off and closing off, right? So he now gets to just share the awareness and bring the awareness instead of reacting from the wound. So this is creating more of a window between reaction and response. So if he sets the boundary of, hey, let me actually go and be with this, and he actually goes and sits with it and bees with this younger part of him, then he can bring this awareness from an integrated place.
And what's that look like? What's that delivery now? How do you deliver that?
The state shift of actually holding the younger part.
Yeah, like what's the felt effect after, and then how does your communication shift? What should you be speaking like as a man?
Yeah.
What's the best linguistics to use to not make it her issue to fix?
As you stated before, it's not necessarily the
Language.
the language or what you say. It's from what place you say it from.
Yeah, the frequency.
So if you're saying it from the little boy, she's going to feel the anxiousness and the fear. If you're saying it from the man, she's going to feel the groundedness and the certainty.
Yeah.
So it's the energy from what place it's coming from.
Coming back a bit, it's like what I struggle with is like I understand you're saying that her own safety is her problem for sure, but it's also like it's fair that if I bring the energy of the wounded boy to her, that's not safe. You know, so like, where's the wiggle room there?
Yeah. So that's where I share. It's you being the safe space. So that's you having yourself first and foremost, from what place you communicate from how you show up, from your energy, from where you're speaking from if you're communicating from from the wounded boy, from the anxious boy, it's going to be unsafe because it's very reactive. Okay. When you communicate to her the awareness of the wound, not from the wound, but the awareness of the wound, what you bring to her, for example, there might be some realness in that of, hey, I noticed like when I brought this to you, you pulled away and that felt really unsafe for me. Now, you speaking your truth in, hey, that wasn't actually safe for what we're wanting to create here. That's now her responsibility. Does that make sense?
What if her pulling away was a direct result of me being unsafe? That's where I get in my head. It's like, that's my fault. No? If I bring her deep unsafety and I'm projecting all the inner child stuff and she retreats, that's on me.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm confused with. Like, what's the line?
Yeah. So this is where it's your responsibility to be the safe space for her.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're not the safe space for her, that's up to her to set the boundary.
Yeah.
That's up to her to create the space that she needs to honor herself.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest things that happened to me was my partner actually left me. That relationship, she left me because my little boy was so anxious, so activated by a lot of her wounding and trauma that it brought up within me. And she actually needed to set the boundary, and she took responsibility in that moment of what needed to happen. And that's actually what needed to happen. Mm-hmm. So her responsibility in that moment is to honor herself, honor her heart, her boundaries, her truth, while also being with the younger parts of her that are coming up as well. If she's just pulling away and retreating and shutting off and closing down from a place of just fear and protection and not really integrating the parts of her that are present, that are coming up, like she's not really taking responsibility of her part in the dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the holding frame. So I'm just speaking. this is a masterclass for me first. I'm going from my perspective. I'm hoping that most men also share my perspective as well. So hopefully I'm not some, person who's fully out of it and acts differently. So, okay, you have the truth ready.
Mm-hmm.
You ground it. You deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't like it. What's next? Like, like that's the part I struggle with. It's like I say the truth. I'm grounded. She doesn't like it.
Yep.
Then I get triggered. Like, oh, I have to fix this.
Yep.
What's the next move there?
That's the boy that needs to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you've delivered your truth. You know from what place it's coming from. You've sat with your little boy. You've held him. You've got your men, your brothers, your counsel that you've brought it to. You bring it to her. It's not received. That's her responsibility. And depending on how important this is to you, what you've spoken, the truth that you've brought, you must be willing to grieve a relationship that where you can't be met. If she can't meet you in your truth and you can't meet her in her truth, that's not a relationship, right? I don't believe that's a relationship. It's you're now just appeasing each other. So a man must be willing to grieve. A woman must be willing to grieve. If you're not willing to grieve,
what does that mean? That you're not willing to you're staying in the relationship because you're so scared of grieving it?
yeah,
Okay.
to face the grief. And the reason why is because we live in a society today that's so disconnected and so afraid of grief.
Mm-hmm.
We've become so disconnected from the ritualistic.
It's so crazy. Ever since losing my mother, 3 years ago, I've become way more of a pussy. I mean that. Like I said, with like truth. Like I honestly was a little toxic in my past relationships. I was never abusive or anything, but I would say my truth, but like aggressively so. I didn't give a shit. It was very much like I wasn't presenting it like the man. It was the inner boy, but I'd be like, if an ex of mine was out late drinking and partying, I didn't like it. I was like, I don't like that you're out late partying and drinking. I don't. And I had no issue saying that at all, zero. And if she couldn't handle that, I'd be like, I'd say it. Ever since losing my mom, there's just like, it's much harder to say those things. It's way harder. I think there has to be a connection there with me being like, I don't want to face that.
Yeah,
that level of pain again.
Have to feel that pain or grief.
It's made me way more of a pussy. It really has. So that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, man. Grief is, if we were to sum everything up that we've spoken about, that shift, right? We didn't really actually speak about how the shift occurs and how the shift happens and what happens. But basically, the portal to transformation and healing, especially healing and reclaiming our healing the wounded in a child and reclaiming our past and our childhood is grief. That's the portal that we have to step through and that we have to cultivate a relationship with.
What are you grieving? Like what is the inner child grief? Like what are you grieving there?
The grief of the childhood that we didn't have, the needs that we didn't have met, and this was me. I had to process the grief of this little boy who felt that he needed to be something other than himself in order to be loved. That he had to abandon himself, abandon his heart in order to feel a sense of connection in his family system. Now, that may sound for some people surface level, but I had to go in there and actually feel the sadness and the grief of that little boy to come back home to the true essence of who I am, right? In order to love fully, in order for, coming back to the very beginning of the podcast where I spoke about the door, right? Me opening that door and reconnecting with that little boy was me actually feeling the weight of grief that I carried from needing to be something other than myself, from the grief and sadness of that I carried from my family, from my parents, from my dad being their emotional support system, all of that. And not actually just having the space to just be the fully expressed, authentic child that I was. Because I had so much love and energy to give, but that was too much. It was too much to be received.
So we're essentially holding on to the patterns because we don't want to grieve. So it's like we're staying stuck in the loops because taking space outside of them means we have to go deep into the grief.
Yeah.
And just like this perpetual avoidance of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to grieve, there's layers. There's layers to the things that we grieve when it comes to reclaiming the wounded inner child. But for the most part, it's the grief of the entire life that we've created based on the foundation of this original pain.
Yeah.
So the hurt in relationships, who you became in relationships, the hurt you've caused other people from your from the place you've been operating from. And there's there has to be a real recognition in that, like how, because here's the thing, when you're operating from the little boy, the boy doesn't take responsibility of how his actions impact other people, right? Because it's just, he's so focused on himself. He's so focused on getting his needs met because he's in such a state of survival. So a real important piece there is for us to actually have the level of vulnerability to feel the shame of the hurt that we've caused from the place that we've been operating from.
Yeah.
And that's a grieving process.
Left my own instincts. What happened to me before was that I spoke my truth, but I was like, spoke all the time. Like this has to be better. This has to be better. This has to be better. Like it was this over fixation, like just like perfection. Like this, like it was like this over delivery. How does a man know that the truth is what has to be said, or is it, or it's just like a reflexive kind of form of abuse or perfectionism? I mean, like you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do that, and fear. Like, how does a man know that the truth is what needs to be said versus it's something that just he has to deal with?
I think there's a lot of nuance in that, in from all the small things that he's bringing to his partner, but yet it'd be asking the question, from what place is this coming from? From what place do I need her to be a certain way for me to be okay? From what place do I need her to show up a certain way in order for me to feel good, or to the boy wants relationship to be easy. And a lot of the times, because men haven't cultivated that connection with their own, because they've been so disconnected from their own inner feminine, they've lent on their partner so much to be their emotional support system that they kind of expect their woman to be not only their emotional support system, but this sense of nourishment that doesn't cause them any issues or any problems. And that's the little boy not wanting to take on the responsibility of the role that a man plays in relationship. Yeah. So when we come back to you holding that little boy that feels that he needs to be something other than himself in order to be loved, that he needs something outside of himself to be loved, that is the deepest form of having yourself. And those small little things that your partner brings you, they're initiations, they're callings to adventure for the younger parts of you to be acknowledged, where you can just meet this woman where she's at without needing her to be a certain way for you to feel a certain way about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man says truth. He sat with it. It's coming from a grounded place. She doesn't like it. She's upset. How does he keep holding frame? He just stands on it 10 toes down.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here, and depends what the truth is, but I'm here to hold space for you. I'm here to meet you in this, if you're willing to meet me in this. And yeah, I'm just here. There's nothing else to it. It's yeah.
So you're currently single?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What for you are requirements you need from your future partner to commit seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Like what for you now from her are complete non-negotiables that you have come to realize over your own education, life mistakes, and tribulations?
Yeah. Love this question. From what place I can answer this from now? it makes me proud, because I was so disconnected from this for a long time. So the most important thing that I look for in a woman, in a partner, is that her devotion to herself is more important. Like, that's her number one thing, is the devotional connection that she has to her full expression.
What does that look like?
Her connection to nature, her connection to God, to spirit, to her womb, especially, to her body, to the way she expresses herself, the way she moves through the world, the way that she honors her boundaries, she speaks her truth. That is more important to me, because I know that the more devoted she is to herself, the more she can actually devote herself to me,
Mhm.
and in our partnership. Same with myself, right? The more I am anchored in myself, the more, I've got my men, my brothers, I've got my connection to nature, to spirit. I've got my pillars to lean on. The more I'm able to choose my woman fully, because I don't need her. She doesn't need me. Therefore, we can choose each other from a healthy place. So the main thing I look for in a partner, and that I am looking for and open to, is a woman who has that devotional connection to herself, to nature, to spirit, to her expression. Yeah. And is grounded in that too. Like, there's a sense of like, ah, there's like a real feeling of, she knows what she wants and she's anchored in that. And she's not going to waver in that, because I've connected with some women that, especially through social media, that can be the image.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you connect with them, you feel this, like, there's an unstableness in it, and you can feel like she would. And I feel this is actually the representation of the healthy masculine, is you provoking her full expression, and that means you provoking her speaking her truth. And a super important piece is that I want a woman that's going to speak her truth. She's going to bring things to me. She's not just going to let me uh, operate from the little boy. Like, she's going to challenge me. She's going to bring to my awareness how I could show up better. And that's, yeah.
On the flip side of that, thank you for all that. On the flip side of that, that's what my woman's really good at. That's what got me. And I've definitely provoked her to speak her truth. She's told me I've never felt more comfortable speaking my truth than with you. However, I still f it up sometimes. So on the other side, how does a man receive truth from the feminine?
Mm.
Because in good Lucas mode, I receive it. I'm deep in breath. I'm like, I understand you. I get it.
Yeah.
I see you. Most of the time, I don't see it. I get defensive. I react. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, I didn't see it. So how does that time lapse shorten? How does that man get good at receiving the feminine's proverbial slap in the face?
Yeah.
With their truth.
Well, first of all, it's important that she communicates it in a healthy way. It's not an attack. When a woman's operating from the little girl, it'll be an attack, and it won't be delivered in a safe way. It won't be delivered in, and the difference between an attack and it being delivered in a safe way is like criticism and kind of it's like jabs, right? Compared to invitation. The woman will invite a man into his potential. The little girl will criticize, control, manipulate a man to get him to try and step up. So it also needs to be delivered in a safe way.
So
from her behalf.
Give me 2 examples of the same calling out, but delivered with 2 different mechanisms that reveal healthy versus unhealthy truth delivery.
Yeah. So let's say he said he was going to do something, but he didn't follow through on the thing that he said he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
The criticism and the unsafe way to bring it to him would be like, why didn't you do this thing? Or it'd be from a place of, and as we spoke about before, it's the energy from where it's coming from. So it's the energy of attack, right? So it's more about like why didn't you do this thing, compared to, hey, I know that you've got a lot going on, and I just want to honor that for a moment. And I know that you said that you're going to do this thing, and I would love to just be the invitation for you to like honor your word and come back to that. Right. So instead of an attack and like criticize and control or try and find.
You really think there are women who can do that? You really think there are women out there who can do that?
I've received it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, and they're fully like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've received it. And here's the thing as well. It's in relationship, like we're not going to get it right all the time. And I was going to answer your question before about how does a man deal with receiving a woman bringing to his awareness how he could show up better. And it's, we have to have a healthy level of shame. So for the most part, if she can do her best to bring to his awareness or bring things to him in a healthy way, in the most safe way possible, amazing. Same with a man. But to expect that we're going to get it right 100% of the time is completely disregarding our humanity. And that's, we're not perfect. Yeah. So yes, I've received it, and I've also received the opposite. And that's why I understand this stuff. I know it because I've received both. I've felt what it's felt like to be called forth in a safe way. And I've felt what it's like to be attacked by the feminine, right? And I know which one was more empowering, right? So for a man to receive a woman bringing to his awareness how he could show up better, he has to have a relationship with his shame. And he has to come back to having healthy levels of shame.
What's healthy shame?
Healthy shame is that I can make a mistake, I can f up, and that's okay. Unhealthy shame, toxic shame is I made a mistake, therefore I'm a f up. And where that comes from is when a little boy or a child didn't have the safety to make a mistake, where maybe he made a mistake and he felt love was pulled away just that little bit, right? He doesn't have a safety to know that the safety in that moment to know that it's actually okay to make a mistake. And there's this bedrock and foundation of love no matter what. So I can learn the lesson, right? And I know it doesn't make it mean anything about me. But when he doesn't have that bedrock or foundation of unconditional love and support, and he makes a mistake and he feels love's pulled away, he starts to internalize that shame, and the shame starts to become part of his identity, where it's no longer, I made a mistake, it's I am a mistake. And that toxic shame we carry through our entire life. And as humans, we do everything in our power to avoid our shame being exposed. So therefore, she brings to your awareness how you could show up better. And instead of seeing it as an opportunity to open and to deepen, you see it as an attack. Because you're shame-based, because you have this identity of shame, that there's something inherently wrong with me, or I'm broken, or I'm a failure, or I'm a f up. And I'll do everything to avoid feeling that. So she brings it to you and you shut down. You close off. You become reactive because you do everything to protect yourself from that shame of the little boy. So in that moment, you're not actually accepting the invitation to step up or the invitation to deepen, or maybe the invitation in that moment is to speak your truth and actually hold a boundary. Because you'll make it so much about you in that moment and take it away from what she's actually bringing to you, because the shame is coming to the surface.
Yeah. One thing I deal with that reveals my level of shame is when I step out of line, I do something I know I shouldn't have done. The human in me makes a mistake. I'm in bed in a shame cycle. I probably sleep like 3 hours, almost every time.
As in, like, during the day, you would just sleep?
No. Like,
yeah.
we have let's say I slip up, I leak in a way I know I shouldn't have. Like, I know I should have done better. Like, it's like, come on, man. That night, I'm in bed, like, I'm not, I'm thankfully in a place where I don't think too much, but I'm in intense shame. So shame in my body so severely, like, I sleep like 3 hours. Almost every time. That's exactly what you're saying. So for a man like me in that position, what's to be done?
And let's just say that moment that you experience, let's say you're laying there in bed, I would create this space to go and sit in stillness. I'd get out of the bed, out of that environment, change your environment, go sit in stillness and be with that and breathe into it and allow yourself to start to become present with the little boy who felt that there was something inherently wrong with him or that it wasn't safe for him to actually up and make a mistake. And there's a healthy level. So actually feeling that. And it's super important that as we're reconnecting with the boy and the younger part of us, as you're sitting there and you're holding him, you're staying connected to the man as well, the adult self. Okay. Now, a real simple practical thing that you can do to do this is if you're familiar with parts work, right? Basically, there's this younger part of you that's coming up, right? All these protector parts are coming out, these parts of you that are trying to protect you from the shame that are keeping you awake. So this younger part of you is present, this little boy who felt or didn't have the safe space to up or to actually feel his shame as well, because we need healthy levels of shame. So making a very, very gentle left fist with your left hand, and this is the smaller little boy. This is the younger part of you, the part that feels like he's a fuck up, right? With the right hand, this is the higher self. This is the man, right? This is you connected to your fullness. This is the grounded tree that just is unshakable. And what you can do is literally, as the man, hold that younger part of you. So your right hand is holding your left fist as if you're holding this little boy. And it's like, and then you let him know, hey, I'm here. I've got you. You're safe. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't mean that you're a up. It's actually okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's holding this younger part of you and allowing yourself to actually feel whatever's actually seeking to be felt in that moment. And it's really important that with shame that you stay connected to that man and you keep reminding that little boy and holding him and letting him know that it's actually okay to make a mistake, right? And it doesn't mean anything about him. And now he just gets to learn the lesson that's there and he gets to step up and become better.
So I'm going to bring more complex situation to you. So for me, I learned one thing in my journey spiritually, blasting off into the ether many times and doing all that kind of stuff, which has its downsides. Of course, what I've learned is that we're in a battle between love and fear. Essentially. Like the fear is the language of the matrix, love is the language of anything outside of here. So in that pursuit of having love over fear, I kind of try and repress or jump away from the terror of my inner child. And this is fear. And fear will only lead me to perceptions that ruin me. So how does one balance that? To understand that it's not useful to go into fear, but then also feeling the inner child. And is there something beneath the fear? Like, is the fear an avoidance? Like what's one to do with that information? Like, fear is not good. The inner boy is terrified. How do you handle that dilemma?
On the other side of love is grief. We live in a two-sided reality. And as I shared before, in order to love fully, in order to live a full life with an open heart, you must be also willing to grieve. So typically beneath the fear will be a younger part of you that's seeking your attention, that's actually seeking to be felt and seeking to grieve. But the fear is in childhood when we don't get our needs met, when we don't have the safe space to know that we are loved, that we matter, that we have a place in the world, that we're held, we will die otherwise. We're solely dependent on our caregivers to meet our survival needs, otherwise we die. So the ego is very much designed and based on survival, to keep you safe, to keep you alive. And that's all it really wants to do. So the ego will create stories and keep you living in a state of fear. But beneath that is typically the little boy. For me, was the little boy laying in on the floor when his parents separated and divorced. So how the fear showed up in that is if my partner brought to my awareness how I could show up better, or if I felt that she had something that was more important than me, I would be in this constant state of fear
Mhm.
because I'm fearing doing anything to avoid going back into that bedroom because that little boy laying on that bedroom floor, I thought I was going to die. Or I didn't consciously think that. I felt I was going to die because my parents, the people I love more than anything, that I'm solely dependent on emotionally, have just left me. And the very little love that I received from them emotionally, like that's now even gone. And there's even more disconnection. So beneath the fear was actually how much of a fear state I was in that relationship of any small little trigger, right? Any small little subtle thing where I felt that there was something more important than me in that relationship, it would trigger that fear because I was afraid of actually, going back into that room and experiencing what I experienced as a 6-year-old. I mean, the ego will do everything in its power to protect you from feeling that.
And fear is a protection.
Hmm.
Why?
Otherwise, we die. Like our body doesn't know the difference between that moment and that situation and this
I was saying,
relationship.
how does fear keep one from from not grieving? How does the emotion of fear? How is that what the ego uses to not go into grief? Like, why is fear the escape mechanism? Why is fear like the thing that helps you avoid the grief?
Because of the pain that would come up and the parts of you that are protecting you
Oh,
from the
okay.
original pain
Okay.
that
So just like it's just a fear of actually feeling the loss.
feeling that, yeah. But the thing is, it's that, like, abandonment, emotional abandonment, or a disconnection of love in childhood is death. So as a child, like, it literally felt like death. So when my partner left me and I was faced with the grief of that little boy, right, where I went back into that moment of that little boy laying on the floor, I remember in that moment, there was a part of me that was like, oh, you're not actually going to die feeling this. Like, that's how it felt. It's like, oh, I can actually feel this, and that's okay. I can actually be with this. I'm not going to die. And then the more I allowed myself to actually be with the grief of that little boy who lost his parents' disconnection, that fear no longer shows up as intense as it once did in relationships. Because if I need to, I'll go back there. I'm not afraid of that coming up again because I've met that depths of myself and I'm willing to go there time after time. Yeah.
How can one tap into that grief? Let's say the inner child trigger activates. You feel the fear seep through your body, your nervous system's jacked up. What can one do to actually connect with that grief?
Mm. Yeah. It's important that we have pillars of support in our life and we're not just trying to do this on our own. This is where I share that society today has become so disconnected from grieving. And the most important piece with grief is community. So if a man doesn't have brotherhood, if he doesn't have healthy community where he can be seen in his fullness, where he can bring what's real for him to his brothers and for his brothers to hold him in that, he's going to try and hold it on his own. And for me, that didn't work. I tried doing it on my own for a long time. And this is where then, like, if a man has wounds with the masculine and brotherhood wounds, he won't allow himself to actually lean into brotherhood. That's a whole other thing. With grief, in tribal times and even in some communities today, when someone has lost something or they're going through a grieving period, it's known that that person's going through a grieving period right now. And there's some tribes where they'll actually wear an armband. And wear an armband so people know that this person's going through a grieving period, or their house will have something on it. So it's like honoring this person in their community that's experiencing grief, right? We've become so disconnected from it. So it's so important that either as a man or a woman, you have your community that you can lean on and you can be seen in your fullness and be held and supported by emotionally. The scariest thing about grief that people are afraid of going into is they're afraid that there's no bottom to it and that they'll lose themselves in it. And as I shared about, the little 6-year-old boy like me laying on the floor, I spent my entire life running away from that moment because I felt if I go there, I'd die. I'll lose myself to it. But when we realize and we actually intentionally hold a bottom to the grief, and what that would look like is energetically being held by brothers or sisters, and also knowing it's like, I've got this, I can hold this, I can be with this, right? You can create the space for you to actually lean into the sadness of what's actually coming up for you. A lot of the anger that men experience today is actually the lid to the grief that they've suppressed most of their life. In previous relationships, I'd be very easily reactive. I'd be very short with my partner. I'd be passive aggressive. I'd shut down. I'd get frustrated easily. I'd be very moody, right? And in that was that was the lid to the rage and the anger that was actually beneath the surface of the little boy that was seeking my love and attention, and the emotion and the built up suppressed and repressed emotion that I'd been holding on to my entire life. Yeah. So how I got to the point of actually healing and reclaiming the wounded little boy within me was I had the right men around me. I seeked out the right men to support me and to hold me emotionally, understanding that I'm in this grieving period. When that woman left me and I was left on my own, I also made a commitment to myself in that moment that I'm going to honor myself in this, and I'm going to honor this season that this is initiating me into, and I'm going to see how much I can be with this. And that was a journey of 9 months of me feeling it and facing it, feeling it and facing it, welcoming the sadness, welcoming the sorrow, welcoming the hurt that I caused from the little boy, welcoming the waves of grief that came up of the little boy who felt that he needed to be something other than himself in order to be loved. Me being held by brothers, right? One of my closest bros, like literally holding my little boy, holding me, like soothing my head, like letting me know, like, hey, Ryan, it's okay. I've got you. And me receiving that support from and being held by brothers and by men, by my community, was the most profound initiation that I've had from boy to man. And it's so important that men have that. Because I could say, I could give very surface level tactics of, hey, go sit and just become present with, what's coming up for you. But it's like, no, like you need to seek out community. You need to seek out a space for you to be seen and held in this. And this is not just for someone who's going through loss. We're all grieving. As long as you're living, you're grieving. And as I shared before, to live a full life, to live with an open heart, to walk through the world with an open heart, you must also be willing to grieve. Because grieving is our body's natural process of letting go. And if you don't have a relationship with grief, you don't have a relationship with your emotions. You don't have the ability to actually feel and process whatever's seeking your attention in this moment. And that's all grief is. Grief is creating the space to actually process and feel and acknowledge whatever's seeking your attention so you can complete whatever's incomplete in your system. So, yeah, man, like to make this a little bit more tangible, I would say everything we've spoken about, from the triggers, like the shutdown, the reactivity, all of this stuff in relationship, I like to look at them as trailheads. Trailheads that are the beginning of a journey. And if you create enough solitude and stillness, and you become present, and you just bring presence to the trigger and you follow the trailhead, I can almost guarantee there will be a little boy at the end of that trail seeking your attention. And in that is your opportunity to provide the safe, loving presence that he needed in that moment. Because a trigger is just a poke at the wound that's already there.
From a probably a challenging question, I'm curious for your answer.
You're good at them.
From a higher perspective, why is the inner child journey so needed for even spiritual development? Like, why in this dimension have our souls chose this dance? What about it is expanding our SQ? And what about it is strengthening our own soul? Beyond just like human, right? There's a human strength, but from the higher perspective, what's like the spiritual or enhancer from actually going through this process?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. But what I do know is that our wounds shape us into who we are, into who we become. So when you come back to the true essence of who you are placed in this world to be, the true essence of who you are, the perfect miracle that you once were, I believe the journey back home to uncovering those parts of us and then how we bring that to the world is our soul's mission. That's our number one purpose.
Returning to the purity of the child?
Yes. Returning to the very the gifts that you're welcomed into this world with. And coming back home to that, the journey back home to that, navigating the wounds and the grief and the trauma. And I believe it's like the biggest hero's journey. It's like the biggest initiation, going back into the depth of our childhood, reclaiming the gifts and the lessons and the embodiment, right, in the pit of the hero's journey, reclaiming the wisdom and being able to bring that wisdom up into the world. I believe that's our soul's purpose. And then how we bring that to the world is, for example, what I get to do every single day with the hundreds or even millions of lives I impact, even just through content, through me helping people come back to that. Yeah.
What is that in you? What's that in you? What we talked about all the pain and the morose and the anxiety and the terror of the inner child.
Yep.
Kind of come back full circle into the golden shadow side of things.
Yep.
What are the parts of little Ryan that were beautiful?
Love this.
That you try and tap into as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. Because yes, we have the neglected inner child and we have the nurtured inner child. The nurtured inner child is our authentic expression, the gifts that we came in this world with. Through this journey, what I was able to reclaim and come back home to within myself is how big my heart is and how passionate I am about helping, about expressing, about anything that I'm learning about and any way that I can help people. From when I go back to who I was when I was a little boy, like I was so passionate about anything. I asked a million questions. I was so curious. I was so open and I was so expressive. And I just wanted to see people happy. And along the way, that was overwhelming for a lot of people. So I dimmed my light. So coming back to that was me. And by the way, the golden shadow is coming back to the innate gifts that we're welcomed into the world with and pairing them with the skills that we've already learned, right? So the life that I'd already built for myself, it wasn't getting rid of, it wasn't neglecting who I've become along the way from the false self, right? Because when we disconnect from ourself in childhood, we build this life on the foundation of this false self and we become this false identity, right? But in that, there's gifts, there's lessons, there's learnings, there's initiations, there's embodiment, right? So it was actually coming back and reclaiming the wounded little boy and allowing myself to come back home to those original gifts that I was welcomed into this world with, I was able to no longer be operating from the wounded little boy, and now from the man who can bring his passion of sharing, of helping, of serving, and not do it from a place of needing from the world to feel something about myself. It's now from an authentic place. Like, whether this, whatever we've spoken about today is received or not, I don't care. I know that I've shared my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that matters to me and the little boy within me.
And the connection you've made, I'm assuming, is the more you hold the tender, wounded parts in our child, the direct correlation is that the gifts start coming online more so as well.
Yep.
Why is that, you think?
So this happens very quickly when I take men into these processes. For example, let's say a man's noticed that there's a little boy within him who's sitting in his bedroom, right? He's got the door closed, this little child. He's afraid. He doesn't want to, he feels lonely or disconnected or not safe in his family system. So he'd rather just spend all his time in his room, right? And this is what would happen. So for example, we go into that room. So he imagines himself as the man going to that room, and in a very safe way, in a very invitational way. It's like, hey, like, would it be okay if I sat with you? And he sits with this little boy, and he creates a space for this little boy to share what he's feeling in this moment, and for this younger part of him, which is still a part of him, to express itself and to be acknowledged and witnessed through and with loving presence. And the safety and support that little boy needed in that moment for him to go, oh, I can actually relax. I don't have to hide in here anymore, right? And he begins to feel the sense of safety in his nervous system by creating safety for that little boy, that younger part, because there's no separation. So when he goes in and he creates safety for that little boy within him, that younger part of him, and that little boy feels safe, he feels safe. Mm-hmm. And he opens. And then every time, like, this is when I know there's a shift that happens. I see a smile come on their face because the little boy is now smiling. Mm-hmm. And this little boy, I get him to ask this little boy, what is it you would like to do now? And typically it's, I just want to be here with you, or I want to play. I want to go do this thing. I want to actually leave my bedroom. So that's when it's like, awesome. Like, how would that feel for you? Would it be okay if you were to leave, right? And take him and go and play and show him one of your favorite spots. And basically what's happening is he's opening the door to his heart, where he's now welcoming in play. He's now welcoming in adventure. Mm-hmm. He's now feeling safe to actually open up and be open to the world. Now, when a man has a little boy within him who is exactly what I just explained, he will become a high-performing, high-achieving man who just locks himself in his office and just works, because he's operating from this little boy who actually feels unsafe in connection and community. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I notice in that is when we go through processes like this, men start to become more present with their partner. They start to become more present with their family, and they start welcoming in more play in their life, because this younger part of them is no longer stuck in that room. Mm-hmm. It's like this emotional, until we go back and reclaim these younger parts of us, we're stuck and frozen in that timestamp of energy. So you might look like a 40 or 50-year-old successful man hiding in your office, but you're actually a little boy who's afraid of being in connection. Mm. Yeah, in community.
Okay. It's crazy, just the timing of this. For exactly what I'm going through, I needed everything you said. So just for me in this moment, thank you very much. For just going through mostly for going through what you've gone through emotionally to get here. Like, that's no joke. So just thank you for going through that inner work.
Thank you, brother.
You know, it's easy to read a book. It's easy to master that stuff, but I feel it in you.
Thank you.
I haven't been brave enough to go all the way. So just thank you for showing me that there's a way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to watch more content,
please click this video right here and don't forget to subscribe right here. Thank you.